How did you kill off the last hour on a Tuesday edition of Gary and Matt? We welcome in from Husker 24/7, Brian Christopherson. Good morning, BC.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. Hey, quick question, because I know you were around. Has do you think, because in the moment we appreciated it, how well has Tommie Frazier's career at Nebraska aged? And I ask you this because we got into this discussion earlier in the show about what athletes at Nebraska, and you can add to this, have elevated the brand of the program they played for. And Tommie is one that came up immediately in our discussion. But if you and then I went back and I was going through his bio and looking at his career and going, damn, it was better than I probably thought in the moment.
Yeah, Tommie would probably top the list for me. Partly because he's associated with just championship teams when everybody had an eagle eye on Nebraska, but it was also the way Tommie was he was always good, but he was in big games. He was incredible. And everybody can think of course, the Fiesta Bowl, but like go to the game where they played at like Colorado in '95 and Neuheisel marches his team through the student section before the game. They're fired up. Nebraska scores on the first play on an Ahman Green touchdown. But in that game, no penalties by Nebraska. But Tommie has that play I'll always remember where he's like getting sacked around midfield, still has somehow the strength and keep his knee just above the ground, flips it out to Ahman, and they get like 20 yards. That's one of the best plays I've ever seen a guy make, honestly. And that's in that type of game. It was those type of games, like top 10 matchups, where he would always deliver something that was dynamic. And I was like junior high going into Omaha North High School at that time in my life. And it was cool when I was a kid to like kids would have like Miami jerseys and stuff, like it was cool to like something outside the area. And Tommie and that Husker team changed that. I remember just looking in the halls like at North my freshman year, and there's like kids in like the Tommie jerseys and stuff, and it was different. Like they had a cool factor, and he was certainly a big part of it. I'd throw like Sue in there, not a championship team, but he was just like so dynamic, and we've never seen anything like what Sue did in one given night, like he did against Colt McCoy in Texas, where it just completely like. I think everybody knew he was having a great season, but that was such a unbelievable like performance, like people hadn't seen before, that it made people like go back and take stock of everything. And there was such a cool factor to how he did it. I thought that brought great recognition to the brand, although I don't think Nebraska capitalized off it like they should have, as we've talked about many times.
Does anyone on the team currently have that cool factor or have a potential to have that cool factor?
I think if Dylan is elite by the end of his career, he certainly could be somebody that could do that. If somebody is at that position and helps raise Nebraska from middling like 6-7 wins to suddenly like by the end of his career, let's say they did make a college football playoff or something like that. It would be sort of a different path than like Tommie and some guys followed, where they, I guess anything could happen, but they won a national championship.
Yeah.
But I mean, where Nebraska football is when Dylan got here is in a different place, of course, than it was for those other guys. So like, I think if he elevated and helped elevate this program with great play to you are one of like the final 8 teams before he left here. And I know some people are snickering as I say that, but that's what their goal is,
Sure.
and it should be their goal. And if he does something like that, yeah, I think he would. You'd have to say like he would do a lot to raise the Husker brand and any guys that are involved in making big plays and getting there. So that opportunity is out for those guys out there to grab. And I was interviewing Trey Taylor last week, the 27 commit, and he recognizes that like possibility with Husker football, the idea that you can be Superman, like in those parts and beyond, if you can help elevate the program. And I think that was part of the appeal to him too.
What was let's stay with that. What were you've interviewed many high school prospects that turn into Huskers or don't come here. What was your impression in your discussion with him?
Really impressed. He woke me up. It was a little before 7.
Like, he walked
I
into your
should have been ready.
house?
No. I was like, it was early. He called early. And he gets up at like 5 and does film study and does a workout and stuff like that. And he was
Yeah,
like
J-Max
on his way
style.
to school. And so my phone rings and I'm sleeping and I see his name, and I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna be tough. So I gave myself a second before I called him back to wipe the cobwebs away. But he was very impressive, just in the fact that, like, if you ask him about like the position of playing quarterback, he's like into the nuances at a level that you don't hear like most
Mhm.
like 16-year-olds. And he's kind of been that way, it seems like, from reading stories and like talking to people who know him well, since he was like 8 or 9, which sounds silly to say, but it's true. Like, he really just got into it as a little kid, like wanting to know all the ins and outs. There's a video. He was a quarterback at Quarterback University under Donovan Dooley, who's a QB's guru type coach, and they have a video on their site where Trey is sitting next to Bryce Underwood, and Trey's like 12 years old. Bryce is, like a couple years older, and there's also a senior in high school next to him, and you can tell, and I don't mean this as a knock to the other guys, Trey at age 12 like has command of like the interview in the room, and like is and they're kind of smiling nervously as he's like talking about how he sometimes corrects them on stuff, like on the grease board or whatever when they're going through things. So Nebraska really did get a guy who is he wants to be an academic of football. I mean, he wants to be somebody who just knows, like, if a defense does this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to learn a little something new every day. So I think that's the part that stands out to me about him so far.
Well, that doesn't surprise me because I don't know. Have you talked to his high school coach, Jason McKee, Brian?
I haven't yet. No,
Okay.
I didn't talk to him. I talked to Donovan Dooley, but I know
Gotcha.
Jason's done some interviews and a similar deal where it's just like, for his school, and let's be clear, and Donovan Dooley pointed this out. Trey is one of those players who like don't think like IMG or some of those schools
Yeah.
wouldn't love to have him, and he could go there. And the program Trey was at last year, they went 4-7,
Mhm.
and so they're going to have to try to step it up in the wins category. But Trey had a really good statistical season,
Sure.
20 touchdowns, 7 picks, yardage was really good, and so he's trying to elevate those guys around him. And Dooley's point was this kid could have went anywhere, but he is one of those guys who's he said, a loyal dog. He's going to stick
Sure.
to the trying to build up those guys around him and get those guys on the same page with him. So it'll be kind of interesting. People want to keep track of his school and like if they can elevate a little bit this year.
So that's in my neck of the woods, and J Mac
Yes.
is a former fullback for the Chicago Bears, and I got to know J Mac a little bit. I think it'd be a great interview for you because a lot of that seriousness that you talk about with Trey Taylor, I think definitely comes from Jason McKee and the coaching that he's doing. And that's a program in Carmel where they've kind of been in the middle to lower tier of that Chicago Catholic League, like high school football area. But I mean, Trey's the type of guy that is going to try and elevate them. And you're totally right that, following them is going to be interesting this year. I want to flip, though, to the current Husker football team. Is it crazy to say that the biggest boom or bust position group on this team this season is the tight end room?
I'm thinking, brain spinning. They'd be in the running. But the only thing I'd say to that is I also think they've got, I say this every time, I'm a big Lindenmeyer guy. You know this by now.
Yes.
Like I just think he's reliable. So you've got that like base level, right? Where it's some concrete set with that, where it's like you've got a player that is going to do his job really well. And then I know what you're saying, though. The others around him sort of bring you to that category of like, what is Harvard going to do
Yeah.
with only like 8 months of training at a position that I think is one of the more difficult spots to play in sports, any sport, just because of you have to know everything. I think he's been trending well, and I think Harburg's got the right mindset from his time being a quarterback to help him with that. But that's certainly an interesting storyline. And then obviously with Carter Nelson, we'll see if he can get that in full stride here this summer leading into camp and what that could look like.
Mm-hmm.
And Markway. So, I mean, it definitely has like storylines aplenty. Like there's 4 or 5 guys. You could go from the top to like a walk on like Caden Echternock, who like Satterfield said, I like didn't want to play him at first because he couldn't get stuff right, and now he's like going to maybe be in the rotation. And so definitely an interesting position. I think Lindenmeyer helps give you a base though, where you're like, I feel good about that, and then let's hope it really takes off where he has like there's a Batman Robin combo that develops somehow.
Hey, let's sticking quarterback, and the current quarterback and lists are out, and Joe Klatt yesterday had his top 10. And I think the month of May we look at the quarterbacks, the top returning quarterbacks, and we go, okay, and then you pick through Legway and Arch Manning and Aller and Altmaier, and by then you have like, nope, nobody good is going to be a quarterback. Something or nothing that Nebraska's quarterback, who has a year of full starting 13 football games, doesn't show up on a lot of lists.
I guess it's something. I'm surprised a little bit. Like he tends to be like in the 15 to 20 range. Like I saw a Sporting News one that had him number 19, and I know there were some bad stats like in October, and like ESPN did a tiered list, and they brought up like his worst numbers from that month. I think Nebraska people are probably fine with all that, though. If we just get to the meat of the matter, like I think it's like let everybody talk about everybody else. Dylan has put in the work. We definitely know that he's done it with his body because he just looked different up front, and he quickly put to bed within the first week the whole like what's your playing weight at situation. Like that storyline went away by early on, and we moved on from it. And so I think he can add an element by maybe scrambling just a little bit more when he needs to. I think that's in his mind that he can do that and wants to do that. But also, the biggest thing now is just the mental part of, I think teams did throw some different wrinkles at him starting in like the second month that caused some potholes along the way, and he had to learn from. But he's had a whole off season to sit through that film and look through it. And I was struck by when he did interviews and he was talking about like the 2-minute warning. I'm actually writing about like 2-minute offense later this week, and how like he went through some those games that are tough to watch, the endings, I think 5-6 times he's been through them, and he's put himself through that. Like, what can I do better in this situation? What should have I done? And I have to think overall he's done that with everything from last year, processed it like he needed to, and now we see where that takes him. But I would guess that they're okay. Like, that's fine. Let him lay low, and hopefully, at this time next year when they're making lists, Dylan's had a performance where he's like, well, he's top 5. He has that kind of year.
Is it safe to say that special teams is kind of just its own branch of Nebraska football at this point? And is that something that you're okay with or you're comfortable with looking at this team?
Yeah. I mean, special teams has always been its own separate discussion after every game, it feels like.
Yeah.
And usually to the negative. And that's where you're hopeful because of with Mike Eckler and just like his energy. And I think his expectation that they're going to succeed, like he definitely is used to that from what he did at Tennessee. And I think one of the biggest things is, he did it with a lot of walk-ons and guys who were reserves on those units for the Volunteers. And this is probably an underrated part of this season. If he can get that group really rolling, and you've got guys who aren't necessarily your frontline guys contributing, I just think that is so huge for the whole building. Like when you step in to the meetings on Mondays and guys who maybe they're third team at their spot, but they made a play on specials like on Saturday, and it shows up and it's highlighted in the film room, and they have a little bounce in their step. And so if they can get that working for them, where your whole roster is really contributing and it's coming through special teams, I think that's going to be a big deal. Obviously, a lot of this, though, is going to be, do you have the right foot? Two right feet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need the punter that's going to come in soon, and then you've got to have that guy. Nowadays, the college game's gotten more like the NFL, and I always think the best 20 minutes of the week is Sundays from 2:50 p.m. Central
Witching
to
hour.
3:10. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. There's like 3 or 4 games, and you always know there's going to be something where someone just scored with 39 seconds left. Somebody else gets the ball, and they got to get to like a 51-yard kick, and you've got to have the guy then that can connect the dots and turn sadness into happiness. And so within the 3 kicker options they have, I mean, we could talk about everything under the sun, but there's going to be 1 or 2 wins decided by just simply, do they have that guy who can hit the 46-yarder when he has to, or hits a 34-yarder when he has to, like the Illinois game or whatever. So, so much will be riding on that.
Are you going to Knoxville this weekend?
I'm not, but I'm really into it. I enjoyed last weekend thoroughly. I'm not going to pretend like I am, just focused on it the entire year, but I've been tracking Jordy, and the thing that's fun about the Husker team is Jordy draws you in because it's just unbelievable to watch an athlete of that caliber. But then you just see how well-rounded this team is. Like, so, Ava Cusack, and there's all these people just step up in big moments. And I mean, I think it's going to be a bunch of nail biters in Knoxville, but I don't. I like Nebraska's chances. I think they're confident. I think they can go do it. And women's softball's a great watch. It's great theater. I mean, I was watching Southeastern Louisiana, LSU, and was it the Friday night game, and they're just going back and forth. And it's just such a great sport where, one team will score 2 runs, someone else will answer with 3. It just has a great back and forth rhythm to it. And so hopefully Husker Nation is all in on it, because we're seeing something just incredible with Jordy. And I like how Rhonda Revelle said, it's not like I say that she's going to do this, and this, but when she does those things, I'm just not surprised. I thought that was such a great way to put it.
Yeah, it is. This has been a fun run. It's such a great television sport as well.
It is.
So it should be fun this weekend in Knoxville. BC, as always, thanks for your time. Have a good holiday weekend.